Hey everyone, welcome to Zero Labs. Today is Sunday, November 27th, 2022. I'm Mark Brash, your host, and this is another episode of Zero's Garage. So behind me is my 2006 Toyota Camry LE 4-cylinder. I had to purchase this car when a tree at my place of employment decided to do this to my 1997 Toyota with 320,000 miles on it. Still going strong, thank you very much. And its life was cut short early. So I picked this one up for just under $3,000 used, which was a tremendous bargain. I bought it with 220,000 miles. It now has about 245,000 miles on it. I probably put maybe $1,000 in repairs altogether to bring it up to snuff and make it the way I wanted it. Still needs a new catalytic converter for $480, which I am reluctant to do. But other than that, it has a problem, and one of the remaining problems that I need to fix on this car is the front suspension. The front suspension rattles like a pair of castanets, and as I'm driving down the road over small bumps, I have determined that the problem lies with the front strut mounts that are on the top of the strut towers. Most of the videos that I have seen on YouTube instruct the user and show the user how to replace the strut mounts after removing the struts completely from the car. That's okay, but you know, you're taking apart your tie rod ends, you're taking apart suspension components, you're loosening up how the strut is mounted to the lower control arm. And once you put it all back together, that requires a front end realignment. I was thinking about that, and I thought to myself, I don't think you need to do that. I think you can change the strut mounts without removing the struts from the car, requiring a realignment after you're done. So this is a bit of an experiment. I really don't know how this is going to go, but I'm going to give it a shot, and I hope you enjoy this video. To start, you're going to need some tools. You need your average set of tools, you know, of course, your socket set and screwdrivers and whatnot. But the one specialty tool that you're going to need, whether you're changing the strut mounts in the car or out of the car, are these. A set of spring compressors. Without compressing the spring, you won't be able to disassemble the bearing assembly from the strut mount, and yeah, it becomes impossible. As you can tell, I haven't used these in quite a long time. It's not something that you use every day, but it was one of those things, you know, well, I need it. I'm either going to rent them or I'm going to buy them. So I bought them, and now I have them. And that's pretty much how my entire inventory of tools has developed over the years. So I have quite an extensive array of tools. So let's get down to it. So one of the prime indicators that the strut mounts might be worn is that the top of the strut itself does not sit centered in this opening in the strut housing. And when I push up and down on the front end of the car, this shaft should remain stationary relative to the housing. So watch this. I don't know if you can detect that motion, but the bolt is actually shifting up and down relative to the housing as I push up and down, and I can actually hear the bearing inside clacking as I do that. So I'm pretty confident that this is the problem. So first things first, we're going to take the wheel cover off the wheel, loosen up the lug nuts, and then jack the car up to get the tires off the ground, and then finish loosening up the lug nuts, remove the tires. And now I can continue taking the lug nuts all the way off and remove the tire. I'm going to do the passenger side first, only because this is the beginning of my experiment. We'll find out if this works or not, and then I'll continue on to the driver's side. So the first challenge is to get this part of the spring compressor around the side of the spring. The trouble is I have a small clearance problem. Oh, this is a failed experiment. I can't get in there. No way. Crap. Well, folks, there's a reason they call these experiments, because not all experiments go according to plan. And this one is a monumental failure. Well, not a complete failure. I learned something. I learned it doesn't work. The entire process that I envisioned in my head, predicated on me being able to snake the spring compressor alongside the spring, but unfortunately the cavity of the shock tower does not leave me enough clearance to get this around the side of the spring so that I can catch the top portion and compress the spring before taking it down. So I will still be proceeding, but in a more conventional fashion. I'll be disconnecting the linkage to the sway bar. I will be disconnecting the bracket that holds the brake line, and taking off the, I think these are 21mm bolts, if I recall correctly. They're big bolts, two of them that hold the bottom of the strut to the wheel assembly, and then removing it from the top and taking the strut, spring, and upper mount out as one unit, then putting the spring compressor on, then replacing it and putting the whole assembly back in. I will have to bring it in for a realignment then, obviously, but worse things could happen. So anyway, hope you had fun watching this failure. I'm going to leave the cameras running anyway, because this becomes now a conventional repair that dozens of others have already documented very well on YouTube. So. So this is the original strut mount assembly. This is the bearing that sits inside the cup between the strut mount and the spring tray at the top. The rubber bushing is not completely worn. It is softer than it should be, but here is the real problem, okay? Hear that? That's the bearing. And if you look closely, you can see it moving back and forth inside the race. So the softened rubber bushing together with this worn out bearing was making the clacking noise that was driving me absolutely crazy, because everything else in the car rides so quiet, and then that silence is broken by this unbelievably annoying suspension rattle that took me a long time to find. I replaced all kinds of components. I replaced sway bar bushings, I replaced sway bar linkage, and ultimately it comes down to this. So that's it for the strut mount. You might be asking yourself, why didn't I just replace the whole strut? Because the struts are not bad. The struts are still fine. It's the bearings that wear out. So if you got a clunk in the front of your car, don't drink the Kool-Aid, all right? The struts are probably fine. If the car is not doing this as you're going down the road, you're good. Just replace the part that went bad, and that's the part that only costs 30 bucks. So anyway, the reason I did this video is simply because the last video that I did on a Toyota Camry, which was the idle air control valve video, it was immensely popular and appealed to a much broader audience, which I'm hoping to attract. So I know I said this once before, but I will say it again in this video. Thanks all for joining me. Hope you enjoyed this video. As always, please rate, share, comment, and subscribe. Peace, everyone. Getting too old for this shit.